Welcome to Two Bitches in a Broom podcast. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode 19. I believe so. And for this week, we are going to dive into the topic of retrogrades.
Yay!
They're so much fun.
I don't know about fun, but
Oh, I say that sarcastically. Yay. So maybe we'll start out with if you want to give a brief explanation, because you do this so much better than I do, of what is retrograde in the first place.
yeah, I can do that. It's an astrological phenomenon that occurs when the planet Mercury, it'll appear to like our human eyes to move backwards in its orbit around the sun. It's not literally, but that's what it appears like. And it happens 3 to 4 times a year, and each period lasts for about 3 weeks. But there is this, what they call the shadow phase, which is when it's just beginning to do that, which is like a week prior, 10 days, a week to 10 days prior, and a week to 10 days after the event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hear this, you see this all over social media, especially with retrograde and how that affects everyone, the energy and what comes up. And I feel like a lot of times that's something that we tend to not take into consideration. We miss it, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So when we feel like everything kind of got flipped upside down and everything's kind of topsy-turvy, I feel like we get into our human brain so much that we forget that we also flow with collective cosmic energy. And we forget that, oh yeah, Mercury's in the microwave again.
My daughter calls it Gatorade. That's what
Yeah,
she calls it.
I've seen that post and be like, okay, what's in Gatorade right now?
Yeah,
Because
like that's
everything's
what she does.
crazy. Yeah, it is. So I know for this year in 2024, oh yeah, Happy New Year, by the way. This is the first episode of
Yeah, right.
2024.
Yeah.
I just realized that as I'm looking at the calendar. We have Mercury retrograde happening 1, 2, 3 times, April, August, and November. So when retrograde happens, it is literally things turning upside down and haywire and flipped over, also I think it's important to know, and I've realized not a lot of people know this. There's other, like, all the planets go retrograde
Mhm,
in certain phases and certain times.
mhm.
Mercury is just the most popular one. um so
I think
what
it's
is
the
your
most
take?
often talked about one because
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
one that affects people across the board,
Right, yeah.
instead of one particular sign,
Hmm.
astrologically, like
Yeah,
I'm a Taurus, so it may, some planetary alignments or shifts could affect Taurus,
right.
where retrograde is like, I'm getting all you bitches.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting too, even with like Mercury retrograde, is I notice a lot of the topic tends to focus a lot about like technology messing up,
Mhm.
stuff like that happening, but also communication is something that goes sideways too, not just our phones and our computers. And it is also the way we communicate with each other and how we receive that communication too.
Mhm.
Because every time I see retrograde, I think that is absolutely going to present elements of shadow in that person, and especially with like Mercury, who's like a fucking catch-all for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic time to notice those parts of your shadow that are surfacing for you around that time. What's your best kind of tip on navigating retrograde?
Um, well, first, I think it's important to note Mercury is nicknamed the god of war. So I think that should help you get it pretty easy right off the
Yeah.
bat. Um,
That says a lot in this, in just that
yeah,
one
yeah,
little label says a lot.
yeah. And like you said, it does disrupt our communications.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it affects our technology, because you got to think we're communicating, we're emailing, we're talking on
Mm-hmm.
phones, we're texting on our phones, we're faxing, we're copying. Those are forms of communications, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, our cars, because it does affect travel as well. So our cars, planes, trains, buses, any kind of travel that you do, um, it's affecting all of that, our technology, travel, communication.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so what are some of the things that I think that you can do? I have 8 things that I tell my students, that I kind of give like a bulleted list. And the very first one is, do not initiate any important conversations right now.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, try to avoid those difficult, influential discussions with coworkers or bosses or best friends or family members, because your brain is a little bit fuzzy right now and your
Mm-hmm.
emotions are a little bit off right now. So it's best to prolong those hard conversations, and you'll come to a better agreement when everybody is fully mentally prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Yep.
make any massive choices right now and say, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I think everybody's throat chakra during retrograde is like, wow, it's just blown up.
The urge will be there,
Yeah, yeah,
but don't act on it. The urge will be there.
yeah,
Just wait. Just wait.
yeah,
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I think that's a really important one. Um, Again, because the urge is going to be there to blow everything out and to get it all. And, when you're, as we all know, well, majority of us all know, when you are in an emotional heightened state, it's not the best time to be um expressing a lot of stuff, because when you're
absolutely.
coming from an emotionally heightened state, it's not really in the, your critical thinking mind and your logical mind don't really have much of a say.
Very true. Very true.
So yeah, that's the one thing I tell everybody when I have this conversation about retrograde and Mercury especially.
Mhm.
Just hold on, just hang on. This is a
Yep.
review and reflect time.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is a time for you to just be with yourself and just take everything as like, okay, I'll notate that. We'll notate that and circle back. Um, Definitely, if you are in an unavoidable situation of getting into, contracts or agreements, man, really, really, really take your time reading through it, making sure everything is good. Unfortunately, there's some times where you just can't avoid this is happening at this time, but really, really take your time and dissect all the stuff that you're getting into if you're in a retrograde time going through that. If you can put it off, that's even better, but if you can't, uh really be super, super diligent and meticulous on your stuff. And I feel like with retrograde too, with just people in general, just yourself, be easy on yourself. it is, you know, that war energy really comes up strong. And then when it messes with your phone and your computer and then your travel plans, and then that gets you in a even more heightened state, you know, be easy on yourself during this time, during retrograde. I
Yeah,
think that's, you
that's
know,
one of my really big tips is do not make any huge
mm-hmm,
irreversible changes.
mm-hmm,
And that does apply to contracts, obviously.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
yeah,
reverse that, try to avoid quitting your job, starting a new relationship, ending an old relationship, or
mm,
virtually any other life altering decisions.
mm-hmm,
All Mercury is doing its thing, because you're
mm-hmm.
going to feel completely different after this period is over. And I will tell you, people have huge regrets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, and another tip is buying. Oh my God, you got to be so careful during retrograde because there is this compulsion to overspend during retrograde. If you notice, now that you're hearing this, just think of what
Mhm,
you're seeing. Look at your Amazon, look at your grocery bills, look at, oh, I must have this. There's this impulsive purchasing
mhm,
that
mhm.
during that time, and
Yeah.
people afterwards, they're like, oh my God, why did I do that? Yeah, it's pretty
Mhm.
big. It's pretty
Oh
big.
yeah.
Mhm.
Take a look at how your, if you're anything like me, how your save for later grows on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least you're not hitting the buy button or
Right.
pressing the
Yeah. I've
buy.
learned that lesson. So I just keep adding
Yeah.
and save for later and save for later. See how much that expands. I think that's a really good experiment.
Yeah.
Let's say when the next retrograde comes for Mercury, right? It's going to be April.
Mhm.
Uh, Make that a challenge to yourself. You know how they have like no spend November and no spend January? Make it a no spend April for you because it's going to last pretty much through April. Um, and but just instead of that impulse to buy, to check out, just add it to your cart and let it just sit there. Look at how much things grow and the kinds of things that you keep adding to your cart.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that is another thing, like this, the kind of stuff. And after, in hindsight, you're like, did I really even need that? Is that something that I'm really gonna like use and make its worth its value, you know? And how probably not. Usually not. It's just the impulsiveness that
Yeah.
happens for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that hard lesson a long time ago. So now I just window shop.
Yeah.
Add to cart and analyze later. So, what's one of your other tips? Because you said you had eight.
This one I think is the most challenging, and that is because I can tell you to be prepared, but that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily mean that you will. You can tell yourself to be prepared, but be prepared for secrets to be revealed.
Mm. Dun dun
Every single
dun.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, oh, you're somebody's doing something silly or
Mm-hmm.
offhanded. I'm talking about something that's going to hit you right in the feels.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have an emotion and, most likely an exaggerated one because of retrograde on top of that.
Right, right.
That will spurn a pretty big emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the reality is, another tip that's kind of feeding into this one is don't dismiss what you're feeling and what other people are feeling during this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's emotions deserve to be disregarded. You
Mm-hmm.
never know what other people are going through, especially with retrograde on top of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have to, I believe you even said this, you have to be kind and gentle to yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pause, take the empirical breath, breathe through that, you know, prevent any overreactions or emotional outbursts by taking a few breaths before you allow yourself to react to something that's upsetting you. It
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
be really helpful in averting pretty significant disasters. And
Yes.
it can preserve your mental stability as well, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Because when those things surface for you, and it is something that you wouldn't even think that was a problem, or maybe you thought that you settled with it at some point before, and or again, you don't know what your reality and your experience is never going to match with somebody else's reality and their experience and what they take in. That's why I think that's a really good point, and something that needs to be remembered for everyone. What you said of your feelings are valid, everybody else's feelings are valid as well, because your reality is not going to be what their reality is, and how you express and receive is not going to be how they express and receive. And being gentle with yourself, absolutely. Like take everything with a grain of salt during a retrograde time.
Yeah,
I think with the flip flop of communication, the unveiling of of secrets and unearthing of things can definitely perpetuate that emotional heightened state even more, and then we act out on that, right?
yeah,
And then that can get us in a bit of a conundrum after the fact when
yeah,
Mercury goes direct and everything starts to settle, and then you look at like the aftermath of what you went through and what transpired through it for you, and you
yeah.
think, oh
Well,
shit.
you have to take into account Mercury started in the year 2023, and 2023 is a 7 year, which is all about
Mm,
introspection. So we
mm-hmm,
started off in the retrograde being very self-focused.
mm-hmm,
And then that retrograde is continuing to 2024, the year of the eight, which
mm-hmm,
is all about expansion, growth,
mm-hmm,
um, moving forward with a lot of momentum. Eight is a dynamic energy. So you put that with retrograde, and we have moving forward being dynamic and saying things and doing things
mm-hmm.
that may not work out so well.
I also got, when I sat with like the energy of this year too, I feel like um a lot of completion of karmic cycles too
Yeah, sure.
through this year, and just reflect on your path. I encourage everyone to reflect on your path. Look at what has transpired through 2023, because it was all about me, in that the theme of 2023, all about me.
Mhm.
And moving through that, and when you have that all about me, naturally the shadow will emerge to progress, right? Because you're telling the universe it's all about me and my alignment and my path and where I'm going. And spirit's like, fantastic, let's get some work done.
Yeah,
And then you throw retrograde on top of that, that can absolutely amplify, take things to like 100 for you,
right.
you know.
And
um
everything has like a yin and a yang, right?
mm-hmm,
So if you were to use that with numerology and astrology, seven is a very feminine, divine energy, and eight is very masculine. So if you put that together,
Mm-hmm.
again, there's all of these energies on top of energies on top of energies. And it can be a very challenging time. And that's another tip I have
Mm-hmm.
is do not pass judgments and don't talk badly about people behind their backs. I mean, even though you shouldn't normally do this anyways, make an extra effort to be
Mm-hmm.
friendly and understanding, because your kind of crappy mood, right? It could
Right, right.
affect how you're viewing other people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own set of lenses that they're seeing things through. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to assume that other people are seeing it from the way that you are, right?
Oh yeah.
And you don't want to, create bad relationships with people or burn bridges with people that later you may regret. You know,
Right, right.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, don't discount the other person. And
Right.
your patience, uh pack a little extra
Yeah.
through this through retrograde time.
Yeah. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think that what happens is people get so frustrated. They get very frustrated and overwhelmed with this period of time, which kind of circles back to those
Mm-hmm.
bad spending habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're seeking the dopamine from that retail therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's a pretty vicious cycle, and unfortunately, regretful. If there's one word that I could sum up, it's that there's a lot of regrets after retrograde. A lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I think the beauty of this, and even just as we're talking about it, and whoever is watching or listening, is once you become aware, you can no longer become unaware. And so, you know, you're, even if it's that little voice in the back of your head that's saying, maybe you should calm your tits a little bit. At
Yeah.
least that's what I hear, right?
Yeah.
Like, um awareness and expansion in awareness really aids you in one way or the other of getting the point across of how we navigate energy. Because, like you said, it's a layer upon layer upon layer of energies, and your own personal chart, your own personal energies and path. Think about all of that mixed together.
Yeah.
How beautiful, but also how chaotic that can become
Yeah.
if we allow ourselves to um, act out off of emotional sensitivity,
Yeah.
you know.
And
So,
that's one of the things that I actually say to my students, tip wise, is
mm-hmm,
it's tough being human. And
mm-hmm,
we all would love to have someone give us grace. And
mm-hmm,
this is your opportunity to give someone that grace that you would like when you fuck up. You know what I mean? It's
mm-hmm.
that opportunity to do that and, spread that karmic goodwill, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. It's going to be interesting. I think it's to see how this year's retrogrades are going to pan out for everyone, coming off of All About Me 2023,
Mhm.
feminine energy. And now we're moving into action and assertiveness, and we pull in that masculine, and um, and then throw retrograde on top of that. It's going to be an interesting 2024 to see how Mercury treats us
Yeah.
during this time frame.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like one of the things that I talk with clients and students on when it's retrograde time, especially because I get a lot of I don't know about you, but I get a lot of messages, and I know that it's during this time, but I get a lot of messages from people being like, okay, what is happening? Because all of da and all of da. And then next thing you know, ding, tell me what planets are this and that right now because blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, um, Mercury's in the microwave again, and probably some other planets that are affecting you are in the microwave also.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I
how
mean,
do you, and when clients are like, how do I do that? What, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to explode. Like, well, okay, let's pause and let's make this a time for you and a time for your just take it all in evaluation and consideration and focus on your foundation, focus on your grounding, your spiritual hygiene, your practice, whatever that is. If you have all this excess energy that you want to do something with, you have that urge, dump it into your foundation right now during
yeah,
this time. Take note of everything that's happening, how you're feeling, what you're hearing from others. Take all of that into consideration. Take note of all of it, but dump that energy into your foundation. Go move some furniture in your house around.
which is what I did all week.
Yeah. Go move some furniture in your house
Yeah,
instead of putting, check out now, but just go like rearrange your house a
yep,
few times.
yep,
You got to expel that energy some kind of way.
yep,
So, you know,
yeah,
yes, stay open, observant, in what's surfacing for you and those around you and relationships that you hold. But, you're learning a lot about yourself right now too at the same time.
yeah. And that absolutely is something that I believe. My opinion is that the universe is always looking for ways to bring to our attention that which needs to be healed within us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you are rushing through life, Mercury retrograde is going to slow you down. It's going to
Oh
show you
yeah.
the importance of slowing down and being in
Mm-hmm.
that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are constantly using technology, guess what? The universe is going to give you a timeout by breaking it
Mm-hmm.
to show you that what you're missing out on in life. And
Yep.
if you're harsh with your words, the universe is going to remind you how important and meaningful those
Mm-hmm.
relationships were. Regretfully, after it's over and you have a clear mind and you're like, oh crap, I did say that, the universe isn't punishing you, it's
Mm-hmm.
reminding you of all the wonderful things that are in your life so you can truly appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Absolutely.
purpose.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a punishment. And I know a lot of people say that. I actually have a lot of clients who are consistently asking me, how do I avoid this? And the short answer is you can't.
You can't.
It doesn't mean you stop living, working, or engaging with people. It means you prepare. Prepare
Mm-hmm.
for delays in travel.
Mm-hmm.
Expect people, including yourself, to be late to your appointments
Mm-hmm.
or even cancel them altogether. And instead of getting angry that they're late or they canceled, and even with yourself, give yourself and others the same grace that you would want. And
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
um, appliances are known to break down quite a bit. Ensure that they're maintained and serviced, hopefully before retrograde, but
Mm-hmm.
it's never too late, Be extremely mindful while you're driving. That's a big one during retrograde.
Oh yeah.
It's actually reported. You can go on Google, you can Google this, but it is the most widely reported time from insurance companies that there are car accidents. So
Mm-hmm.
turn your radio off, put your phone on silent, be aware of what other cars are doing, and that's because we're a little flighty.
Mm-hmm.
Give
Oh
yourself
yeah.
some extra time to show up to your appointment. Don't schedule back-to-back appointments, anybody who knows me knows I have a very, very, very tight schedule. When retrograde comes, I give myself an hour in between appointments because
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to deal with it. So that's
Right.
how I compensate for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most importantly, get comfortable with apologizing. Don't be afraid to apologize if you slip and you say something harsh,
Mm-hmm.
Be mindful with your words, but also don't be afraid to go, gosh, I don't know what's wrong. I don't even know why I say that. It's so important to maintain good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And depending where Mercury lies within your chart, it actually determines how much this energy is going to affect you, but it affects everybody. Of everybody. Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, I think that's the one thing that I hear too a lot of how can you how can we avoid this? How can we not have to deal with it? And I say, how about instead we say, how can I embrace this to the
Yeah.
best of my ability, right? And like you were talking about, preparedness is one way that you can embrace retrograde because it's going to happen whether you like
Yeah.
it or not. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know so instead of how can I avoid this or not deal, how about we embrace it and learn to flow with it, right? Again, awareness and your preparedness for
It's
it,
everything.
everything. And I think even just apologizing uh when you do have those slip ups, because you're acknowledging that you're catching it,
Right.
right? And I think so much, it goes such a long way in your own development too, when you're in your own progression, when you acknowledge those instances and that energy, you know um man, it does so much for you just by doing that.
It does. It
Mm-hmm.
does. Absolutely.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's where a lot of people have struggles is that acknowledgement portion, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where a lot of struggles come into play.
Oh yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. It's
Um,
just simply acknowledging it,
good.
you know.
We're so good at pointing out other people's mess ups, you know?
Right, right.
Look at them, they messed up. And then when it comes to us, we're like, who me?
Like, me, no, I would never. Let me tell you, I hear it when those things happen, or when I'm not paying attention to like retrograde energy, and we're all fallible, we're all human, we're all in a human body.
Mhm.
uh I kind of laugh because I mean I'll hear my government name being spoken to me. Like, oh wow. And
You'll
I
hear
will I will talk to myself, and like my whole government name comes out. You better knock it off.
it.
I'm like, get your shit together. You better knock it off. But it is, I think people forget or don't realize how powerful and how impactful the simple acknowledgement does,
Yeah.
you know, especially during retrograde time. Because man, oh man, it's great to be on this rock, isn't it?
Fabulous, darling.
It's
Fabulous.
so much fun to be on this rock. If it's not one thing, it's another.
And I feel like there's a lot of people who know about retrograde and they hear about it, but there's so many different planetary shifts. They're like, oh, it's that thing, you know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
they don't really take it into account. And, for anybody who's watching, I challenge you, go back to the last retrograde date and see how that affected you. See, just recalling your memory and what happened during that
Mm-hmm.
time frame. And you'll be like, ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But there's good news and bad news with this. The good news is it does end. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
good news, right? It
Right.
doesn't, the bad news is it happens 3 to 4 times a year. So get used to it.
Oh
You
yeah.
don't stop living, you don't stop communicating, you carry on. You
Mm-hmm.
just make some adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
I have I am more affected from the shadow phase, which is that beginning to come into retrograde and ending that shift and going back to
Mm-hmm.
normal. That's when I'm most affected. I'm not affected during the 3 week span at all.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really affects me during that time. Um, so it's a very unusual um occurrence for me personally.
Right, right.
Yeah. And I can tell you this particular retrograde, yeah, no. This retrograde is the first retrograde where I'm actively dealing with issues around
Mm-hmm.
electronics everywhere. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what in the actual okay, you know? And it's all focalized around my business. And what am I doing? I'm shifting gears in my business. So this is letting me know, something big is about to open up
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at it. You can look at anything very pessimistically.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at it
Yep.
and go, oh man, this is happening. And oh man, that's happening. I had to replace a printer. I had to replace my office chair. I had to
Right.
replace a coffee pot. I've had those things for years, way too long, way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be like, oh man, that costs a lot of money and I had to do that. Or I can look at it as, man, the universe is gifting me this because I deserve it and it's time for
Mm-hmm.
new,
Right.
So change your perspective on what's occurring and it'll change your entire outlook. It will change your entire outlook. The universe is not punishing you, it's always guiding you to what is your best and highest good on your soul's journey.
Absolutely.
So, what are you
Yeah.
journeying to? What is your soul here to do? It's going to show you so many lessons,
Oh
and you
yeah.
can do it with enthusiasm, and you can do it from a space of gratitude and understanding, or you can be
Mm-hmm.
pissed and angry and get nowhere.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah,
then that's just the ripple effect that you're emitting out anyways.
yeah,
So
yeah,
what do you think is gonna come right back? Because the universe is like, oh wow, she must really like that, or he must really like that. So we're just gonna keep feeding
yeah,
him or her that because that's what they keep emitting out.
yeah,
It is I think that's a really great point of, your just your perspective and how you choose, because it's a choice, how
yeah,
you choose to navigate. You know that it's coming a few times a year. It's unavoidable. It's going to affect everybody.
mhm,
And it's going to affect everybody in different ways because every path is unique and individual to the person. So you can't hide from it. You can't run from it.
sure,
You can't do anything, unfortunately. You have to go through it one way or the other. So are you going to embrace it, shift your perspective on it,
yeah,
and learn what ways that you can adopt that you can flow through it where
yeah,
you are not feeling that.
yeah.
Um,
And
I think
all
I
those
might,
things that happened to me, they all happened in the shadow period,
oh,
right?
yeah.
All of those
Yeah.
things happened in the shadow period. And my husband looked at me and he said, did you manifest this? I think you manifested. Because I was talking about redoing my office because I really
Hmm.
wanted to. And because I'm a Taurus, I really chew on things before I make a move.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
contemplate, is this a good decision? Do I have enough time? And, I just do that.
Yeah.
And the universe was like, the time is now. So yeah, I just went through and I'm like, okay, I'm changing. And I changed here and I changed my main floor and I changed my bedroom and change.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's what we need, shift
Oh
the
yeah.
energy.
You have to shift the energy. And I think you made a really good point too of when you have like what you experienced with this particular retrograde also is that's opening the door for more to come. And like you said, you notice the theme is all circling around your business right now
Yeah.
through this retrograde.
Yeah.
So flowing through it and shifting your perspective, you're opening the door for more to make its way, right? Because then in essence, the way I'm feeling is, that's also you showing up and saying, yes, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
It 100% is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you had said that this retrograde is involving Jupiter, right? Is that
I think, you know what? I don't remember what I
I
said.
think you said Saturn and Jupiter, if I'm not wrong.
Did I?
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that because I'm not a
Yeah.
cosmic expert, but yeah, I don't remember what I said.
Well,
But
Jupiter controls all of our wisdom and higher learning. What do
mm-hmm.
I do?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like when you were talking about that, I was like, huh, okay, maybe, and Saturn is our personal responsibility, you know. And now if you take that and you orient that to like
Mm-hmm.
concrete goals that can be manifested in productive ways, it actually tells us where work needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
and I will be the first one to tell you, anybody who really knows me, I'm pretty rigid.
Right.
I'm pretty rigid, and I do things a very calculated way,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So when Mercury comes around in this big energy, and it's like, hey, this is the 8 year, let's get shit done. Let's move forward. Move forward,
Mm-hmm.
don't resist. For the love of God, learn from me, my friends. Don't resist, go with the flow.
Do as I say, not as I did.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I
exactly.
say now based off what I did, and don't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And I'm talking years and years and years and
Oh
years and
gosh.
decades of retrograde before it got through my very thick Taurus skull.
Yeah.
You know?
I can relate to that 100% because it's a running joke, but I am dead serious. I like to fight all the way through. And after a long time of going through this, I finally am like, okay, I'm not battling as much. Maybe that's the Sagittarius in me too. Like, you're not going to tell me what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I love
and
it.
then and then my Taurus moon is like, let's think about this. Let's add like stuff, I don't know, those energies together is very makes for a fun world being with me.
Yeah, good times, good times.
Makes for a fun world. Just keep it interesting. But yeah, I feel like Mercury, and I've noticed a lot more people are talking about it now.
Mhm.
And even those that are not in the metaphysical community. So it's expanding
Mhm.
the awareness of how much we are affected by cosmic energy.
Mhm.
Like you said with the accidents and retrograde and insurance companies. I think humanity is finally starting to get it, no matter where you stand on the spectrum, that we are affected by the energy
Yeah, we
in
are.
one way or another. It does.
And you can Google divorce rates during retrograde too. And that's just divorces. Think about
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Right.
I had a very good friend of mine who had broke up with somebody, and during retrograde, called me and said, oh, I'm getting back with so-and-so. And I'm like, didn't say anything, right? But in my brain, I'm like, this will not last. And it didn't. It didn't, because retrograde is that screwy energy. You know, you regret so
Yep.
many of those choices, you know.
Oh yeah.
When somebody from your past enters during retrograde, run, Forrest, run. Like, run. They are your ex for a reason. Think of it like poison. We have exes on poison. Don't don't
Right.
don't do it. You know?
I always take it like when I hear of those things happening for people, and I had a friend once who it was during a retrograde time, and I think I'm kind of like you. I don't really pay attention, but in the peak of retrograde, I don't have anything really
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
But before and after, because it always is like this chaos and then the calm and
Yeah.
then a little bit of chaos. So,
Yeah.
but I had a friend who called me once and it was like four exes, like they're just coming out of the woodwork. And I was like, well, maybe you could take it as the universe giving you the opportunity to declare that you are standing by your declarations, right?
Yeah.
So, is it a time to entertain those individuals? Or is it a time for you to reaffirm to the universe that you have, in fact, made those declarations and you stand by them? Right?
Yeah.
So, but man, the X's coming out of the woodwork for people during retrograde time
Is huge.
Yeah. And I've heard people say this sometimes also, maybe we're meant to be. Sure, that's your call. And how the meant to be is not always going to be the butterflies and rainbows and meant to be in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what the universe does in every situation. If this is a lesson that you need to learn on your journey, on your soul's journey, and maybe that is learning self-worth, and maybe the relationship that you were in took that from you, and you put that other person before you. The relationship ended. Not saying that that particular person came back, but let's say it's a completely different person
Right.
that comes into your sphere. And the universe is like, we're going to test. We're going to test. Did she really get this lesson? You know, and a lot of them are tests. The universe is testing you. Did you really get it? Are you done with this lesson? Can we move on to the next one? Or do we have to keep repeating this one?
Right.
You know? And I think retrograde is infamous for that. Infamous for it. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Oh yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It's also like, I mean, just look at even just the topic of communication. It's also your communication with spirit, with the universe, with your God, how that's going to correlate into your path. So retrograde, we have these things, but the universe is also communicating to you at the same time. So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think retrograde is a fantastic time for the empirical pause, for taking that breath of awareness and just really taking inventory of all of the stuff that's being presented to you. And I think you made a good point too with what is the theme that's surfacing for you in this retrograde. We pay attention. If we catch what the theme is, we can navigate those lessons and kind of see where we're headed and what needs to be addressed.
What is the universe trying to tell me? And if, like, say you got a flat tire and then you ran out of gas and then your alternator went out. There's a good chance the universe is trying to bring your attention to something about traveling. Maybe you're traveling too far to go to work, and it's like, yeah, you should probably look for something closer. Maybe that's because you have been consistently putting out to the universe, this is so far, this is so far.
Right,
So you
right.
have an opportunity to reevaluate and go, but oh my gosh, I love my job. Okay. So quit complaining that it's so far.
Right, right.
You know
It's
what I mean?
those daily gripes that we have as humans,
Yeah.
and we don't think about that.
Yeah.
Those little things, you know. Oh, my commute is so many minutes, an hour, or whatever it is. Those are those little like the universe is taking note of every little thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Everything.
Yeah. Oh
Your
yeah.
word is your wand. What are you bringing into existence in your life right now?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you say, you are bringing that into existence in your life. This is your playground. What are you playing in? You know?
Oh yeah.
Are you playing in with everybody you want to play with, or do you got a bunch of bullies around you? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Just something to contemplate, but I think it's an excellent time to review that for yourself. I really
Oh
do.
yeah. Especially moving into the 8 year and this action year.
Yeah, 8 is
And
such a great number too.
oh, I'm so
It,
excited. Yeah.
yeah, like
I
it's
love it.
year of abundance. I think most people that would know that 8 is abundance, but
Mm-hmm.
it is such a dynamic, powerful energy. Love. I'm here. Oh, I'm so here for it. I am.
I love, like, I know 8 and abundance and all that stuff, but I also look at that the, you know, the infinity and the cosmic balance and restoration of those things too,
Yeah.
and really just like the manifestation of what, you know, the quality of energy that you want to
Yeah.
have on your path. So
I think
I'm
that
all about
seven
it.
year, that introspection, a lot of people were questioning, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want? What do I need? And I think the 8 year is like, I freaking deserve this. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna grab it and I'm gonna get it. And yeah, that's
Oh
what
yeah.
like a lot of it is going to be. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. I know I was talking to someone in conversation of the energy of this year coming forward, and like, really, this is the time to be like, the universe works for me, damn it.
Yeah.
Luck and abundance
Yeah.
and everything works for me, you know, and really take that and own it,
Yeah.
you know, because that's not selfish, that's empowering, that's you moving in your alignment and knowing that you deserve whatever it is that you want to create, you know, um, as you move along your soul's path. So,
Yeah.
you know, retrograde, fun stuff. I think this was a good topic. I think this last couple of rounds of retrograde really hit a lot of people more than I've ever seen before.
Mhm.
At least even those that are not in the metaphysical world or into anything spiritual or energy or anything of the sort. And the importance of the energy of this year that's coming forward for a lot of people. There was a lot of personal revelations at the end of this last couple rounds of retrograde. A lot of people were having.
Yeah.
So, you know, take it easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up
Mhm.
when you do go through it, and as we go through it, you know, remember your foundation, remember your basics too. You know, when things
Yeah.
go up in the air, circle back to, you know, foundation 101
Right.
and reassert yourself that way. But yeah, any final thoughts on
No,
good
I think I
old
said everything.
cool? Yeah. I think we covered a lot
I think
during this
so.
during this episode. And, you know, again, Mercury, it's gonna affect everybody. We're all gonna go through it. Foundation, be gentle on yourself and others, you know, look at what the universe is teaching you, what's they're bringing to your table, what's highlighted for you, your theme, and your perspective of how you look at that. It's your choice. Your choice.
I agree.
So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. We appreciate your presence, and we appreciate any likes, shares, and comments if you resonate with this, or others who would resonate with this or benefit from it. We appreciate that energetic exchange of liking, rating. I'm getting used to this, and commenting. And I think we are good. We'll see you guys next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye.